All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. I do apologize. It's the remote system. Some days they work, sometimes they don't. But that is actually a good segue into change. And how do you manage change? And how do you adapt to that? As Alex has rightfully said, we work together. So I lead global sales transformation for Royal Caribbean Cruises worldwide. And what does that mean? So sales transformation is all about professionalizing the sales pathway and the sales career pathway. So what I do is I work with science and psychology, sales science specifically, to build the sales acumen for all of our internal sales teams to work with you each and every day, and to work with our B2B customers and also to work with our B2C customers in the modern ways that people want to be sold to. And when I say modern ways, if you reflect back with me, in the 1980s, there was a time called consultative selling, and that was all the buzz, that was all the rage worldwide. But the psychology behind it was very manipulative, and it was anything to close the sale. And in our call centers, there was actually rules that said you had to close 3 times, regardless of what the customer wanted. Well, guess what? Things change and we don't live in those times anymore. So how does sales evolve, and how does the career pathway of sales will evolve? Well, it does. And there's actually science behind how we should be selling to people each day and how people want to be sold to based on the behaviors that we display. And so I went to a master's program, the world's first master's in science for sales here in England. It's with Middlesex University and Consalia Sales Business School. And there I had to learn about change and how do you lead change for people around the world. Well, I learned that there was about 100 years of organizational change management. But in my class, I don't know what inspired me, but I was very bold to raise my hand to my professors and say, I'm sorry, all of these change models are prescriptive, and they say that we're going to go through change and we're magically going to accept it. Do you believe that? And they said, well, this is the science. And I said, well, great, but science changed. Science evolves. So I said, as human beings, can we accept change? Yes, we can. Can we reject change? Yes, we can. The organizational change models that I was being taught didn't reflect that. So I raised my hand and asked my professors, I said, where's the personal change model for me as a human being? And that is why we are here today. So my master's project, my master's in science program, led me to build the world's first personal change model for my sales team and my sales team members, just like Alex at first. But through the research and through the reach at Royal Caribbean Cruises, as we work with you all over Europe, Middle East, and Africa, we were testing this in Australia, LACAR. So we had a wide array to test the model, the new model that I built with people around the world. And we were able to test in this little thing called the global pandemic that you all survived through, thank goodness. Well, that was massive change. So it was a perfect place to test this model, and I'm going to share it with you today. So I hope that's okay. Today, it's not about selling travel. Today, it's about you and how do you take back control of your life and all the change that you experience. How can you make that work for the best for you? So Alex, if you can take me to the next slide, we'll keep going and we'll move forward. All right. So when we think of change, sometimes change is just too much. Does this look familiar to any of you? Yeah? Your day just gets so hectic. Somebody's telling you what you have to do. Yes, Christina, thank you. Somebody's telling you what you have to do, and it doesn't align with your agenda at all. Maybe it's mom, dad, brother, sister. Maybe it's your kids. Maybe it's the neighbors or the cats or the dogs. Or maybe it's the customers that are calling you nonstop and saying, you know, I've changed my mind. I no longer want to book that cruise. I want to go somewhere different. And you just absorb all of this frustration. Well, it's change. And the one thing that I have learned is that change is constant. It can be personal, but how you manage it can make it bearable and achievable. And take us forward, Alex. One more slide. And so I want to ask you a question. And you can answer me here in the chat if you like, and we'll talk back and forth. But I want you to reflect for just a minute. Have you ever been taught how to manage personal change for yourself? Let's go ahead and see what you say. So just give me a comment. Have you been taught how to manage personal change for yourself? Mohammed, no. Right. Claire, no. Isabel, no. Eleni, Matt, Marie-Elise, wow. Well, guess what? You're in good company. Because throughout my global research, I could not find one person that said yes to that. And that is very interesting if you reflect on that with me for a moment. How do you manage personal change? Well, we've already discussed that change is something that happens to you every single day of your life. And organizational change has been in practice for nearly 100 years. And think about this at your work, in your life, in your school, wherever you may be, we've had ways to manage organizational change, but we've never had an instruction on how we're supposed to manage it for ourselves. And Hugo and Barry, as you said no as well too, when you go back to your mom, your dad, your grandma, grandpa, your brother, your sister, whomever it may be, your boss, your supervisor, your relatives or friends, and you have change that's happening to you. We've all been there, right? We go to our friends and we just dump. This is what happened. My boss did this to me today, and I don't know what to do. Can't you just tell me what I'm supposed to do? What do you think the typical response is? Can anybody tell me? What do people say to you? Just give me a little chat. We'll wait to see what anybody might says. If you share your change, what do people tell you? Well, I'll give you a hint, and you tell me if it sounds familiar. Have you ever been told this? Oh, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. You'll be great. Embrace it. Advice on the situation. Anna saying yes. Oh, don't worry. You're going to be just great. Oh, that's nothing. Or maybe you've been told, just get on with it. Why are you panicking? Don't stress, right? Does any of that sound familiar? It probably does. And maybe you've had some very encouraging people and they try to give you their advice. But here's the thing. The reason they're telling you their platitudes or trying to help you to not worry about it is because they haven't been taught how to manage personal change for themselves either. So the best they can do is try to make you feel good. And it might help you for a few moments. Dion says change is hard in the beginning, messy in the middle, and glorious at the end. That's a great positive attitude, and I like that. Thank you so much for that. But you're right, change is hard. And if people can't help solve our problems, that leaves us to ourselves. We're the only person that can solve our change scenarios for ourselves. So when you walk away from those people, even though their platitudes are very kind, all of a sudden the psychology kicks back in. Your mind starts to stray. Your body might start to panic. Maybe you get rapid breaths. Sometimes you get goose pimples. Sometimes the hair rises on your arms. Sometimes you start to feel the stress in the back of your neck. Sometimes you get headaches. Sometimes you start to just panic. And that is because your body and your mind is reacting to the change, saying you need to do something. But we haven't been taught what to do yet. Okay? Alex, take us to the next slide. Thank you for being my little presser. So, what is personal change? And before we answer that, we need to understand a little bit more about organizational change and what is the difference, okay? So organizational change is a methodology that's been around for about 100 years, almost 100 years. Multitudes of models that will help you to manage change inside an organization, but it's designed to help people implement change within a business or an organizational structure. And it's supported with these models. Alex, take us to the next slide and we'll show you a little bit of what those look like. So maybe you have seen some of these, or maybe you've heard people mentioning some of them. These are some of the top popular models in the world for managing organizational change. And maybe you've experienced it in your business. So on the left is Dr. John Kotter's 8 steps model. And this one, he has 8 processes around this wheel. And at the center of it, there's one big opportunity. So usually organizations focus on a big instance of change and what they want to do. Can be a reorg, could be a pay review, could be a new marketing strategy, could be a new sales strategy, could be a new campaign or promotion like you get with us at Royal Caribbean. It's a change from the norm. And what he uses is 8 steps. He says at the top here, create, then I want you to build, form a strategic vision, enlist volunteer army is the verbiage he uses, enable people by removing barriers, generate short-term wins, and then sustain and institute the change. Now, does any of that look like it's been designed for you as an individual? I don't really see myself inside that model. And I've actually spoken to Dr. John Cotter in my research. And when I asked him, I said, where's the individual in this model? And he said, that's not what this was designed for. And I went, that's the opportunity. No wonder so much change fails. We fail to include the people. But let's look over on the right-hand side of the screen. At the top, you have the father of organizational change management, Dr. Kurt Lewin. And his model is 3 simple steps. Unfreeze the change, make the change itself, and then refreeze. Now, if change management was as simple as that, then you wouldn't need me, you wouldn't need me talking to you today, and you wouldn't need any other models. But it's not. You know, one of you just said in the chat here that change is messy, change is hard. You're absolutely right, it is. So I don't see individual people inside that model. And Claire is saying, not really for the individual, it's the unknown. You're right. What if we make the change and we hate it and we hate the decision? Spot on. I love that, Claire. Thank you for that. In the middle is probably the most popular model. It's called the SARA curve, the SARA feedback model. And it says that people are going to be in shock, they're going to be angry, they're going to resist the change, and then finally they will magically accept the change. And the person who created the SARA curve, which is widely used in business around the world, he's using it here in this scenario in employee evaluations. So he says this is what employees are going to feel during change. Well, let me ask you this, Claire, or anybody, Christina, Alexia, Anna, if you get a promotion at your job, are you going to be in shock? Are you going to be angry? Are you going to resist? I don't think so. I don't think this is the model that's going to support your promotion. So therefore, this model can't really be applied to all scenarios of employee evaluations. Now, I also know who did create this, and it's attributed to Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who is a medical doctor. She's no longer with us, but she's famous for creating the 5 stages of grief. She did her medical research on patients experiencing death and dying, and business entities came to her and said, can we use your model and call it the SARA curve? Well, she said no, but they did it anyway. And here we are. Now, the last model that I really want to share with you is called ADKAR, A-D-K-A-R. This is very famous around the world and used widely. There are many people who hold accreditation and who teach this within businesses. And what this stands for is awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. And I spoke with many people who created this model, and they said, Grant, you don't need to create another personal change model. We've already done that within the D, the desire. And I said, great, congratulations. But let me ask you this. What happens if the employee or the person doesn't have the desire or they reject the change? Can you force the rest of the model on them? And that's where they paused, because we just broke the model. So there's a lot of models around organizational change. And the key is they were designed to support organizations process change through the organization themselves. They are not designed to support the individual. And that's where I'm coming in to support you. So let's go to the next slide. Alex will press the magic button and transition us. There he goes. So within organizational change models, they don't always work. And as I shared with you, the biggest critical gap that's missing is the individual, the very person that's involved and expected to carry out the change and execute the change. And that is a huge missed opportunity. And if you go to the next slide, Alex, we have to ask ourselves, well, why is this relevant and important? You know, people will say, just get on with it, or any kind of a platitude. Some people within organizations say, my team don't fear change, they thrive in it. But what's under the surface? As leaders and supervisors, do we ever ask our people, hey, Alex, do you accept this change? Do you embrace this change? Dion, are you comfortable taking on this change? Well, we don't normally speak that way. That's not our common logic that's permitted for us and guided for us as supervisors to speak. Normally, when we carry out organizational change, we just tell people what they have to do. But guess what? We're human beings and we have feelings. And if supervisors are not in tune to our feelings, then you might be missing out and I might be frustrated and just want to leave, right? So change is messy, it's hard. Let's go to the next slide. So we want to ask ourselves, well then, if organizational change is for the organization, Alex, can you take us to the next slide? We have to ask ourselves, well, how can we manage it for ourselves? So how do we do personal change management? And this is what I'm trying to elevate and bring to the global stage. There is another side to change. We have tons of articles and journals that have enough facts and evidence to circle the globe 2 times to tell you why change fails. And it's the reason it fails is because we don't focus on the individual, the personal side of it. So I've created the new model called Scared So What? And what this does, it's the world's first personal change management model and system. And it invites you into critical reflection so that you can start to reduce stress via analysis. So whenever change happens to you, instead of going into assumption, fear, and panic, the stress mode, you can actually say, how do I reflect on this? Am I scared? So what can I do? It allows you to become more self-aware of opportunities, and it becomes a cognitive skill set that you can use every day for the rest of your life. You can learn this, and it's not that hard. Alex, take us to the next slide, please. So what is it? The first part is scared, and I don't want you to be confused. You don't have to be scared to use it. You just have to be brave enough to learn how. So scared is designed to help you express your feelings regarding personal change. So you start at the top. In the center is you and your change. So you're thinking, well, what kind of change? This could be your boss at work saying, hey, guess what? Claire, next week, you're not going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that. And you might not like it, and you might not enjoy that. So that is a change. It can be any type of change. It can be at home with your families, but it can be at work. It can be anywhere, anything that happens to you that affects you personally. So your change is at the center. At the top, you start working around the bands and you start asking yourself, am I surprised by this change? This is the start of reflection. Am I conflicted about it, or do I champion it? C. Conflict means I'm uncertain or I don't like. Champion means I like the change. Okay. Then you move to the A. What actions could I do? Actions is where you start asking questions. Maybe you're doing research via Google. Maybe you're doing calling a friend or sending text, etc. You're trying to get information that can help you process what the change means to you. And then you're starting to feel, are you receptive to the change or do you reject the change? Could you explore any other options or opportunities? And what decision can you make? Is it a favorable decision, meaning I like it? Or is it an unfavorable decision, meaning I don't like it? Or am I stuck in the middle, meaning I don't know what to do? Usually, if you're stuck in the middle and you don't know what to do, you can go back and rework and do more actions. Once you bring in information, then you're starting to take control over change. And Alex, if you take us to the next slide, what you're trying to do with this is to become your own little coach. So you ask yourself these coaching questions. Am I surprised by this change? Am I conflicted or do I champion it? What actions can I take to get information? From doing that, am I receptive or do I reject the change? Remember, you can reject change. That's okay. But what are you going to do about it, right? How are you going to take control? Could you explore any other options and what decision could I make? This is giving you permission to process your feelings in an analytical way. And it's just scared, S-C-A-R-E-D. You become your own coach. But once you learn this, you can also help others So if you're a mom, dad, brother, sister, and people are coming to you, just ask them, hey, Monica, are you surprised by this? All right, do you like it? Are you conflicted? Do you champion it? Well, what could you do? All right, now that you've done that, are you receptive or are you objective? What decision could you make? You can help process change for other people. That is called scared, the scared process. Alex, take us to the next slide. Now, you have to remember, we do not learn in a linear fashion. Our minds don't work that way. Our minds are up and down and we're all through chaos. We go back and forth. So the model is not linear. It is fluid. You can go backwards and forwards, up and down. As you see here, it's positive energy, negative energy, and it's over time. That's okay. The goal is for you to reflect through SCARED so that you can make an informed decision versus assumption. We don't want to assume. We want to be critically reflective and make our decisions based off of information. That's when we're in charge. And Alex, if you take us to the next slide, once you've made a decision, well, so what? What's next? What does the change mean, or what can I do about it? Well, I've got an option for you. Take us to the next slide. So now that you've thought about it and you've reflected, you need to start making your own plan. What can you do about the change? It's yours. So at the center is you and your plan. And at the top, you start to say, well, what's my strategy? And another word for strategy is plan, okay? What options do I have? Do I have a way forward? You need to think about that for a little bit. Does your plan look achievable? Do you have hope, or do you know how you're going to execute your plan? Now, hope is an internal motivator. If you have hope that your plan will work, chances are you will be successful. But if you don't have hope it will work, well, start over, because there's no sense in moving forward. It won't work. You don't believe it, right? Take the time to make your plan work for you. What actions will you take to make your plan successful? And finally, what will you do to take ownership? And remember, taking ownership, the most important element is just rewarding yourself, because we don't always get that praise and appreciation from others that we seek. But you have to remember, who's the most important person in the room? You. And with personal change, this is all about you. So if you did it and you executed your plan the way you wanted, pat yourself on the back, go get that donut, get a nice coffee, and say, you know what, I did it. And why is that important? Because if you remember to praise yourself, the next time you get into a change scenario, you will remember this, and it will start to become a cognitive tool that you will use over and over, okay? So it's not hard. It's just, how do you take control over change? And if you take us to the next slide, Alex, I wanted to share with you, you can still do this as a coach. So it's just coaching questions. What's my strategy? What options or opportunities do I have? So just like we shared with you with Claire, it's just about being a coach. You know, you can actually ask yourself the open questions and take control for yourself. But this is the foundation of the model. I've done something to make it actually a lot easier for you. And if you take us to the next slide, Alex, what we've done is we've packaged this up into an app. I told you about the foundation because I wanted you to understand the model. But now that you know that, we've just made it simple and easy for you. So you can get the app, you can scan here, or Matt just put a great link in there. Thank you so much. I've made this free for you. So there's no charge, there's no ads, there's no spam, there's nothing. It's just me helping you to manage change wherever you are, whether it be at work, at home, or on the go. This is for you. And you may have seen this inside Forbes, your business, where it's starting to make hits all over the world. This is our first generation app. And again, there's no charge. This is free for you. So you've got at the center of it, this is your personal coach. You can take the scared quiz. Whenever you have a change scenario, sit down, take the time to reflect and invite that reflection, and take the quiz about how you feel about the change. That will give you a visible result. Red is negative, means you feel negative. That's okay. Green is favorable. And if you see gray, that means you're in indecision. So you need to bring more information in. And then on the right, you can make your own plan digitally as well too. And inside the app, I've got little videos to teach you what is personal change and everything that I've shared with you already today. So there's an abundance of resources to help you, and nothing ever to buy. This is not about sales. This is about helping people manage to change for themselves. And if you go to the next slide, Alex, what does it mean? So Inside the app is also a tutor, and there's actually a little coach. So when you see the scared quiz results here where it's red, green, and gray, on the right, there's a little arrow. When you push that little button, it actually tells you what your scores mean. And there's a little video with a professional there who's telling you exactly what your scores mean. So you can watch videos to see, what does my individual results mean to me? This helps you to manage change for yourself. And it gives you the control to get out of stress, get out of fear, get out of the anxiety, and start to make better decisions, information-based decisions, and keep you out of assumption. And if we can do that, wow, you're truly taking control over your life. And imagine the decisions and outcomes that we can make together to have a better society. If you go to the next slide, Alex. So this model is called Scared So What? It's available in an app, and I want to open it up if anybody has any questions about it. So if you have any questions, go ahead and just put it into the chat there. I will ask Alex to send this presentation to all of you. And again, this is our gift to you at Royal Caribbean, and me as the creator, Dr. Grant Van Albrick. I just want you to be able to have something that gives you more control over your life. Okay? Well, if there are no questions, please find me on LinkedIn. Again, Dr. Grant Van Albrick. Alex has got the information. Find me on LinkedIn, connect with me there. Let's share together. Let's help champion change as leaders, as supervisors. You know, we are so much more than the jobs that we hold. We are people, and we are championing people through this crazy life, the things that we live in. So let's make the most of it, and let's get rid of the things that really we don't need to worry about. And with this, you can start to manage personal change for you, for yourself, for your friends and colleagues, and for your families. So I encourage you to get the app, Scared So What, available on Apple and Android, and have a play with it and see what you think. And let's talk, let's stay connected together. And thank you to all of you. I appreciate you staying through our little change scenarios with Tech IT. And thanks so much to Alex for allowing me to share with you today. We at Royal Caribbean are more than just cruises. We care about our people and we care about you. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Grant. To be honest, I don't think I ever saw so many thank you in the chat, which means that you're a truly inspiring speaker for our guests. So thanks a lot. Thank you everyone for joining us, and see you later.